Welcome, everybody, to the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show Series. It's nice to see all your smiley faces. How are you and you and you and you? Nice to see everybody watching from all around the world. This is our international Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show Series, where we are bringing back the lost art of conversation. Not necessarily like an interview show. This is like an Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show Series, harkening back to Dick Cavett and Johnny Carson and Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas, my dear friend Regis Philbin as well, and some of the great veteran television presenters and hosts. As you guys know, I work in television, radio, stage, and film, and have for many, many years, nationally and regionally and locally here in the United States. Matter of fact, this show originates from the New York area. That's right, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, along the southern New England coast between New York and Boston. Beautiful day, but about 45 degrees right now, so a little nippy. Maybe some snow coming towards the latter part of the week. I hope you guys are doing well. This is a very interactive show as well. As you know, it's very interactive, so you can comment live as long as you have subscribed to our YouTube channel, which is the channel that you're watching right now. That's Jim Masters TV. We would love it if you do that. Click that red button, subscribe, and also, don't forget to click the notification bell. Very important. So you are kept abreast of all of our extraordinary episodes with our guests that come in from Broadway, Hollywood, television, film, music, stage, culinary arts, sports, comedy, inspiration, and so much more. Lots of variety. Our viewers, they call themselves the JMS Lovities. That's right, because they said the show has a lot of light, love, and levity. About a year ago, during the course of the pandemic, and guess what happened? They hopped right on it and they said, that's it. We are your Levity squad from all around the world. They watch, they tune in, they comment. Matter of fact, if again, you'd like to comment during the show, that's exclusive for our subscribers. We would love it. Subscribing costs absolutely nothing. That's right. Something in this world that is actually free. How rare is that? It is here at the Jim Masters Show Live. So be sure and do that and tell your friends about our show. And thanks to all of you, all of our friends who have been doing that, sharing the links on your social media pages and so much more. It is awesome. An amazing week of show after show coming up for you. Again, we've done, I think we're approaching 650 episodes of our Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series. Busy day for me. I was on a television shoot earlier today, and then I had 3 radio shows to host, 4 tomorrow, and then 3 other TV shoots in our crazy industry, which I love so much. Our very special guest is immersed in this industry as well, and it's an honor and a blessing and going to be so exciting to have an opportunity to chat with our very special guest joining us from Los Angeles, California, Dan Foliart, renowned television and film composer extraordinaire, and so much more. Now, if you're looking at the screen, gang, what you're seeing are just some of the beloved television series he's had an opportunity to be a part of. And we're going to talk about that and so much more. His prolific career, his involvement in the music industry. Matter of fact, he is writer and co-chairman of ASCAP as well. And he's just beloved in the industry because he's a class act. We were chatting before we went live on the air. We have several mutual friends, actually, in television and film and music here in the United States. It's it's uncanny, isn't it? It's such a small world. All the Lovities, they're commenting live. Our guest, Dan, is a fan of the Jim Masters Show Live. He's watched some of the episodes and thoroughly enjoyed them, and I appreciate that as well. The comments are coming in loud and clear, gang. Thank you very much. Keep those. If you want to chat live again and chat, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can certainly do that. Lots of comments coming in. We will check in with those in just a second. But again, I hope you guys are doing well, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Let me tell you about our phenomenal guest who's joining us again live and direct from Los Angeles, California. He's amazing. He's been doing this for a long time, and he loves what he does. Matter of fact, his music has been indelibly etched on the landscape of network television. He is serving his 5th term on the ASCAP Board of Directors, currently as the writer and co-chairman. He sits as the immediate past president of the Society of Composers and Lyricists after serving that organization for 5 terms over 10 years, developing the New York chapter and instigating the ambassador program, recognizing excellence in the field of film music, including I tell you, in his incredible repertoire of music, his recent projects are George Lopez's St. George, ABC Family's successful series, The Secret Life of the American Teenager, which is now also on Netflix, the 11th year run of Seventh Heaven, that beautifully produced series. That was, of course, on the WB. Along with Emmy nominations galore, he has garnered 38 ASCAP Film and Television Awards, including 16 in the most performed theme category. And also involved in the reboot of Roseanne, too, with Dan's theme and underscore, which was used during that #1 show. Of the 50 plus years series he's composed for, many continue to air in both syndication and internationally, beginning, of course, at the phenomenal Paramount Studios. I was just at the Paramount Studios pre-COVID. A friend of mine is the audience coordinator at the Dr. Phil show. And I was on a television shoot, actually, in Burbank for a TV news program that I co-host with Doug Llewellyn, my dear friend from the People's Court. And my buddy that works at the Paramount said, "Jim, you want to come for a tour of the Paramount Studios?" And I said, "Are you kidding me? Every show that was anything has come through that, including Desilu originally as well." And it was absolutely fantastic. And Dan, of course, had opportunity to work with them, the team there as well. And then partner Howard Pearl, he started an extended run that included some of your beloved television series like Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, and of course, Angie, Donna Pascal, of course. She's a friend. Bosom Buddies, Joanie Loves Chachi with Scott Baio, of course. Cable series Brothers, other series that he has composed for include the incredible Home Improvement with Tim Allen, Beverly Hills 90210, 9 to 5, Guns of Paradise, Island Sun, Carol and Company, of course, Soul Man, Burke's Law, Malibu Shores, 8 Simple Rules, and so much more. He grew up in Oklahoma City, and he was proud to have his symphonic work, Oklahoma Trilogy, performed as part of the state centennial celebration, too. And he's worked on all kinds of incredible films. He enrolled at Amherst College. My cousin went there, too. That's in Massachusetts. That's where he received his degree. And the songs that he wrote are still heard today, and he's prolific. He's working on an incredible project right now with one of our great friends, Lawrence Juber. Yes, Lawrence. Of course, he's known for being Paul McCartney's guitarist in Wings, but so much more. He's another brilliant guy, and we're just so honored to have Dan joining us live and direct from Los Angeles, California. So what I just told you is the short list of his incredible background. There is so much more than what I just said. However, we're going to bring him on because we want to chat with him and we want to share with you his incredible stories and so much more, a few surprises and everything. Let's welcome him live and direct from Los Angeles, California, my special guest, and his beautiful surroundings. Wait till you see the background. It's kind of like, I tell him, this is like person to person, Edward R. Murrow. Wait till you see the gorgeous background in his home and studio in LA. There he is, live and direct from Los Angeles. Dan, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Fabulous. Fabulous. I don't know if I can live up to that introduction, though.
Well, I tell you, I've always admired your work, working in the television and radio and stage and film industries as well, and very familiar with your work. And it is truly an honor and a pleasure to have you here. And we're celebrating the incredible contributions that you have made to the industry. Before we talk about all of this, let's go back in time, back to Oklahoma. Of course, I know your father, a lawyer. What was the inspiration for you early on, Dan, to want to get into music and then specifically get into, the kind of music that you have specialized in for such a long time?
Well, it does go back to Oklahoma. I had a band. In fact, one of my friends from that band may be watching tonight, Bill Gwynn.
Welcome, Bill. Yeah.
we had a group called the Night Riders. we were originally called the Scholars. My mother named us the Scholars, but it seemed like it needed a little bit of an edgier tone, so we became the Night Riders. But I fell absolutely in love with music starting when I was about 10 years old, just listening to, all the great music from the Brill Building. And in fact, I'm working on a project now where I'm recording my favorite songs from the Brill Building and that whole era with all these great musicians, including Lawrence Juber. But anyway,
that's incredible. Yeah, that's incredible. Tell the audience about the Brill Building and what that's about in case they're not familiar.
Well, it's right there, very close to where you are.
Yeah,
it was
East Coast. Yeah,
yeah. It was absolutely the most happening place you could be as a songwriter during the late 1950s and the 1960s. My great friend Hal David, Bacharach and David, was there. Another great friend of mine, Mike Stoller, who wrote so many wonderful songs and did a lot of Elvis songs. I believe they were in the Brill Building, Lieber and Stoller, but there were countless great writers. And one day I was sitting in the ASCAP board meeting and we were supposed to go on to another meeting. And Hal David came up beside me. He said, "Come on, Dan, let's get out of here for just a minute. And I want to take you to the office I had in the Brill Building." And of course, it was one of the great experiences of my life to be walking into the Brill Building there in New York with Hal David. And he took me to the spot where the piano was, where he and Burke Bacharach would write all these wonderful songs when they were working at Famous Music at the time. So it was quite a place, so much inspiration. Neil Sedaka, who was one of my favorites, he and Jack Keller and Howard Greenfield, they had an office there. Everyone trying to write the next great song. And of course, Carole King was right across the street. And she and Jerry Goffin, they were writing their songs too. And so, everyone was just trying to write the next hit song, and they just were writing all these wonderful songs. And I'm revisiting a lot of those songs. It's going to be a lot of fun to go back. I've done a couple of albums, and I'm singing on top of these tracks of these great musicians I worked with on my TV show. So it's called Souvenirs. And I'm hoping that before too long, we'll have Souvenirs out,
Oh, that is fantastic. We will definitely add that to our collection, my friend. Absolutely. Congratulations on that. So you were saying back home in Oklahoma, some of the inspiration. Were you surrounded by music growing up? And what were some of the influences for you early on, Dan?
Well, my mother was a wonderful pianist. And Jim, I have a lot of appreciation for what you do, because I got to tell you, I was doing it when I was 8 years old. We would have these shows in our living room. And my dad, he was a trial lawyer. So he would get up and say, "Oh, I see Burl Ives out in the audience. Yeah. Oh, Dean Martin is there. Hello, Dean." And then all of a sudden I'd take my ukulele out and he'd say, "We have the next great entertainer, Dan Foliart," and he's playing, and I'd start playing all day, whatever song I had in my mind, but it was a fun time. But I love the music of Burke Bacharach and Hal David.
Yes.
As I was growing up, certainly Jimmy Webb. He's not much older than I am, but man,
his wife is a friend of mine, Laura Savini. We've worked together on PBS television projects.
She's a great friend of ours, and she particularly loves my wife, Cheryl, who I do too. Cheryl is probably, would be more interesting to talk to than me. She was at Disney for 20 years and head of the television music. But she and Laura
let's
are
have her
hanging
come
buds.
on. Yeah.
They are buddies.
Laura and I are both Long Island, New York natives.
Yeah.
And she's on the North Shore.
She's a great friend, and Jimmy has become a dear friend. And he was certainly one of my biggest influences growing up. His catalog is unbelievable. And Paul Williams, but that was a little bit later. Paul Williams, who's become a great great, very close to me, and doing
Yes.
a wonderful job at
At
ASCAP.
ASCAP chairman. Yeah.
Um,
I mentioned to you before we went live that I had an opportunity to meet Paul, and I would love to welcome him to the show as a special guest, but he was, there was his recent book, and he was doing a book signing, and a friend of
mhm.
mine was actually running the book signing. And this was on the Connecticut coast at, I believe, RG Julia's in Madison, Connecticut. And then there was to go have dinner. Everybody have dinner across the street at Cafe Allegra restaurant, fabulous place. And we were introduced to each other, and just the conversation was so fantastic. He could not be more generous with his time with everybody, affable, approachable, warm. Everybody loved when he was there. And he's just really, as a stellar guy, and you get a chance to, work together in the way that you do. It's phenomenal, huh?
Well, Paul does the same thing, for the songwriters. We have 850,000 members of ASCAP right now, and Paul makes the composers, the songwriters, everyone he's around feel the same way they made you feel that day. He makes you feel it. He's just such a positive spirit. And of course, he wrote some of the greatest songs, in the American songbook. So
with the Carpenters too. And
my God. Yeah. So, I mean, I was hugely influenced by Jimmy and by Paul. The recent passing of Marilyn Bergman, who was chairman for years. She and Alan became good friends. Alan and I have even written a song together. But
we were watching reruns. We're in this every once in a while. I get into like a little thing where I'm now watching all the reruns of a specific series. Television, of course, all the classic television, and we're watching the reruns of Maude, and I forgot that they were involved in that song, the theme song, and then there's Maude. Donny Hathaway sang it. Yeah, I just totally forgot that they were a part of that song too. I mean, the prolific, huh?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, that's been the joy for me. Besides giving back to the community for all the songwriters and composers, looking out for their interests, but getting a chance to sit next to Jimmy Webb and hear songs, hear tales that he's telling. He's from Oklahoma too, and so we have a lot of Oklahoma stories to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And then to be around Bruce Broughton, who's this incredible TV film writer, and Marcus Miller, just going down the whole list of the board and the great publishers who I have the greatest respect for. I am the writer co-chair, but Erwin Robinson is the publisher co-chair of ASCAP. And I've learned so much from him, just like I did with Hal. Hal was kind of my mentor on the board. Besides taking me to the Brill Building, he kind of showed me the ropes there at ASCAP.
Yeah. So here you are, you're doing your thing in the living room, Dad saying Burl Lives and all the rest. And what happened from there? I mean, we used to do that too. We used to, my sister and I, in our bedroom, used to use the bed as the stage. We'd be on the other side of the bed. We'd hang up a rope. We'd use a blanket or something, rope it over or drape it over the rope. And then we'd pull the rope. Our parents would be on the other side in chairs with popcorn that we set up. And we'd do all kinds of shows and plays. We'd use a lot of instrumental music. My father, all these records, Burke Kempfert and Henry Mancini, Percy Faith, the Terry Baxter Orchestra from the Columbia Record Treasury Collection, I think. And we would use that music as background as we were doing these plays and shows in our room, which was incredible. And we used to do the plays in the garage too. So it sounds like you were creative early on as a kid, huh?
Well, I don't know how great I was, but you ought to hear my voice from those days. Well, I think I'm going to do a little Mary Ann right now. At any rate, from that point, though, I never really, even though the night riders, we were playing in front of all the kids at the high school, particularly the girls. That was the most interest to us, for having this band. But I never really thought that I would go into music. I thought I'd probably join my dad's law firm and be a lawyer. In fact, I was state president of the Teen Democrats my senior year in high school, and I thought I was on a path to law. I was majoring in when I headed off to college in Massachusetts, Amherst. I was a poli-sci major, and then you know, everyone, I don't know if you can point at the time that you decided what you're doing now is what you want to do.
Yeah.
I had a seminal moment my freshman year. I went to see Carole King, who we've talked about before, and James Taylor. It was their first concert together. And she had just written all these great songs I loved. Go Away, Little Girl, Up on the Roof.
Yeah.
And then we had James, who had just come in, and I mean, Sweet Baby James and Fire and Rain, and these kind of, in my mind, I've gone to Carolina. Well, they were playing on a stage in rural Massachusetts, and I went there my freshman year. And after that concert, I went back. I quit the baseball team. I was a pitcher on the baseball team. And I quit the baseball team, which I will regret to this day because it was a small school. I probably could have continued to play, but I quit that. I changed my major from poli-sci to music, and you know, I just never really looked back. And it was that one singular time that I made that decision in my life. And I just, you mentioned it earlier, I have absolutely loved what I've done in my profession, and there's not a thing that I regret. You know, I have two wonderful children, Matt and Lauren. They both live up in San Francisco, and I try to direct them. Try and find something that you truly, truly love, like I did, because I've just had, you know, this wonderful time.
Yes.
But I think you wanted to know how I got into writing for TV and film and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it wasn't from the Night Riders or even the Scholars. Okay.
Right.
It was a different situation here. So when I was about 2 years after that James Taylor, Carole King concert, a gentleman who had gone to college with my dad, his name was GD Spradlin. He played in The Godfather. He played in One on One. He played on North Dallas 40. He Apocalypse Now. He always was a strong, authoritarian figure, even though he was the most liberal guy that you'd ever met in your life. He came off as this hard lords of discipline. He was the guy, you know. But anyway, he and my dad were friends. He decided at 45 years of age, he was going to quit practicing law and go out to Hollywood. He left the whole legal profession, went to Hollywood, and became this major character actor on. And so he was producing a movie, and he went after my dad to get some money for it. You know, GD was a good talker, and he needed some financing for this movie. My dad was true. He said, "No, I'm not going to give you any money, but I do have a son who's majoring in music at Amherst College, and you should meet him." Well, GD and I hit it off. I wrote the song score for this movie with Tom Shapiro, who we'll talk a little bit more about because I'm involved with Tom right now, one of the great songwriters. He's in the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame. But we wrote the song score. This was back when I was a sophomore in college. And I thought I was on my way to fame and fortune. It was like 6 or 7 years before I got my next job. So I'll tell everyone out there, you know, don't think it's going to happen overnight. But I did that movie, and then it was several years later that I got my foot in the door at, you know, where it really started rolling for me.
That was really a key time for you. That was a key linchpin that got the ball rolling, and people were noticing your talent and your passion and your enthusiasm for the work, huh?
Absolutely. And then I mean, I started studying film scoring with a gentleman by the name of Albert Harris, was a great teacher out here in Los Angeles. And he put me together with a gentleman who would end up being my partner for about 7 or 8 years. It was after Tom Shapiro. His name is Howard Pearl. And we wrote many things together that we've talked about today. But Howard and I, Howard had a friend who was producing Angie. You mentioned that I'm glad you know Robert Hayes or Donna Pascal, because they're wonderful people.
Oh, yeah. I love that song. That theme song I have heard interpreted by so many different orchestras. I've heard it on easy listening radio. I mean, just dun 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 dun.
Okay, Jim, I'm going to tell you the story that I told everyone else.
Yeah.
You opened the door for this story. Okay.
Good.
I did not write that song.
I know that. Yeah.
I wrote the underscore. But
Yes.
I mean, everybody, Dan, they'd go, da, 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 da. I love it. I love it. I said, I did not write that. Charles Fox wrote that.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And you were talking about him to
Love
LJ.
Boat, Love American Style,
Yeah.
prolific.
One of my great friends. I've told Charlie this. So finally, people just kept, Dan, what a great.
Yes.
So finally, after about 6 months, Jim, I just started saying, thank you very much.
I appreciate that.
It is a good song. I just love that song. But anyway, that was my first.
The underscoring. And for the audience knowing, the underscoring, of course, is the music that sweeps in underneath and really heightens the feeling and the textures of what the dialogue is, what the camera angles are grasping. We were talking about that, Lord Schwartz. We were talking about how I always paid deep attention through watching film as well as television, the underscoring that comes in, even on, soap operas, underscoring is used, that music is used throughout almost every scene.
Yeah.
How it really enhances and what it would be like without it, how it just doesn't complete what the feeling is, the vibe, the emotion, how it really can take and heighten in every different direction, whatever it is, the emotion that the writer, the others that are part of the crew want to convey. And it marries so beautifully with the dialogue, the acting, the performances, the angles, the location. Underscoring is spectacular. So you did that with Angie, the underscoring for Angie.
I did the underscore.
Good stuff.
I think you really hit the nail on the head. LJ, I was very impressed. He said the music kind of becomes another character in a show. And Lawrence was right about that, Lawrence Schubert. You're trying to make the funny scenes more humorous. You're trying to make the dramatic scenes more dramatic. You're trying to make the horror scenes, extremely scary. And that's our role as composers. And, I think one technique that has happened since I got started, sometimes a lot of music is just written, ahead of time and thrown in a show.
Yeah.
With me, and I don't know about everyone else, but with me, I need to sit there with the show and I need to almost I need to internalize it.
Yes.
So it's very important for me to actually be writing the music, even if it's a short piece, like to Home Improvement, that's only 5 seconds long. There's something about, I'm going to see something going on at that moment. So it could be 5 seconds. It could be a 5-minute scene, but sometimes I'm sitting there, I'm composing the music and I'm getting teary eyed as I'm watching it because I studied acting for a couple of years, and I think it really helped me as far as having the instinct to be able to be a composer. But it's so important to add this to a show and not get in the way. Also, there are times you gotta just stay out of the way.
Yeah. I've always admired, and I've mentioned it to a lot of people, colleagues in the industry, but also friends, just when we're watching shows and family, how you're able to, through music, perfectly capture. It's almost as if you're saying the words in a way and enhancing the emotion in a way that is tough to sometimes even put in words, meaning that's the way that underscoring came in, or just the way that music sweeps in and out in different ways, how it really it just personifies what it is that we're experiencing in a way that is so extraordinary. So again, like I said, I've always admired it. I've always pointed it out. I've always looked at it. Maybe being in television, I'm looking at all of the, the complete package of a production. But I've just found it absolutely amazing how guys like you can capture the exact perfect feeling and essence through the instrumentation, through the arrangement, through the composition. I'm like, my God, that was so, even if it's just a little boing or whatever, just whatever it is, it's so perfect for where the heck does that come from? It's extraordinary. It's always fascinated me. It's brilliant.
Well, I think a good composer is a dramatist. I really do.
Right.
And in musical terms, for an example, if you're working on a scene and there's a difference between, let's say, a major 7 chord, talking in musical terms, or a dominant 7 chord. I mean, the way that using those 2 different chords, within the body of a scene, they can make all the difference. And you just brought it up. What would it be without music? I've heard there've been a lot of presentations. I saw a great one with John Williams and Steven Spielberg, and he played the first 6 minutes of Raiders of the Lost Ark without the music. Yeah. This was down at Disney Hall here, and Spielberg got upset. This is just completely boring. But let's hear it now with John's music. And then John was down there and he conducted that 6 minutes with the orchestra, and it was just fabulous. It was just incredible.
Yeah.
But I need to also do a shout out to all the great musicians.
Yes.
Because, my career would have gone nowhere if I hadn't had the ability to work with a Gary Herbig on the saxophone, or the woodwinds, or Jim Cox, or certainly Lawrence Juber, or Dominic Genova, Michael Joachim, John Ferraro. These guys were all my team. Chad Wackerman. I mean, these guys were my team, and they added so much to my scores. I can't even tell you.
I know that Henry Mancini is somebody you always admired as well, and his incredible contributions to the music industry, huh?
Well, Jenny sat next to me. I'm a member of also the ASCAP Foundation Board, and what this group does for up and coming musicians and composers and lyricists is outstanding. But when I first got on this board, Jenny was sitting right next to me. And so I would try and pick her brain about some great Henry stories. And he was so fabulous. And she was a strong, and she was a wonderful woman. She had great wit. And I was so sorry that we lost her over this last year.
Just a couple months ago.
She had a wonderful life,
Yes.
She really did.
Yeah, I had an opportunity of all things, and it was so fabulous. My dear friend is composer Tim Janis, who's done a lot of PBS specials, and does an annual Christmas special or celebration at Carnegie Hall, and brings in a lot of different people. And Ginny was there because we were celebrating, I think it was a milestone birthday. It was a fabulous annual Christmas concert there, but one of the elements was acknowledging who was also there, Sir James Galway. James Galway, of course, another brilliant, and his wife Jean, and they've become dear friends as well. And I had the wonderful opportunity to write the intro for and introduce Ginny Mancini on stage, and it was just so fantastic. She was hilarious. She was warm. She was affable. Of course, that's Henry Mancini's wife, of course, for those watching, and Monica Mancini's mother. And we were chatting before we went live. We have mutual friends in Monica, who I interviewed on PBS years ago, and Greg Field, who's another phenomenal drummer, producer, Grammy winning, and worked on a PBS special. Wonderful people, huh?
Well, let me tell you, one of the great experiences of my life happened. So for ASCAP, one of the valuable things that we do, we haven't been able to do it since COVID, but we go to Washington and we have a program called I Write the Songs. And, Jimmy Webb and Paul have performed there, and Bruce Broughton. But so I had an opportunity to do two of my themes there. The one I did Home Improvement, and I also did Roseanne. And
yes,
at this program that you play in front of all these congressional members and their aides, it's at the Library of Congress. It's in like the most beautiful theater, like where Appalachian Spring premiered by Copeland back in the 1920s. But we go in this auditorium, and then I was up on stage, and I was playing the Roseanne theme, not as good as Lawrence was playing the Roseanne theme or Home Improvement. By the way, I might play just a little guitar here in a second.
Fabulous.
And you'll see why I'm so lucky to have Lawrence Juber right by my side. But anyway, yeah. I played these songs, and then there is a dinner afterwards in the Great Hall of the Library of Congress. And so here's Greg sitting there with Monica, and he said, "Dan, why don't you and Cheryl get your food and just come on? We got a couple of seats here." So we get our food, and I go sitting over there, and here's John Glenn, their great friend,
the astronaut. Yes.
Oh, John Glenn was sitting there, and here I am sitting next to John Glenn, and you look right outside this huge window, and there was the Capitol building. You look at it from the Library of Congress. And I said, this is pretty special to be sitting next to John Glenn.
And I bet what came to mind for you immediately is "Fly Me to the Moon."
Hey, by the way, that gentleman is the big benefactor of the ASCAP Foundation. He's given all the royalties for that song to the ASCAP Foundation.
That's fantastic.
Bart Howard, yeah. But I tell you what, it was a magic night, but I wouldn't have had that night without Greg and Monica. Come on over and sit with us. And yeah really fantastic, huh? Jeez. Absolutely.
So how did you get in? How did it morph into wanting to work with television and film? And because you do a lot of different things, I know we're really focusing on that, but where did that become an emphasis and an interest? Had you always had a keen interest? Were you always paying attention to film scores and themes, television show themes? I mentioned to you off air before we went on live that I love production music. Sometimes I'm working in the studio and we need some production music for a documentary or something else that we're working on, and we'll pull these discs and we're like, oh my God, that's just labeled production music, but that's a fantastic song, and TV news themes too, and all of that. Anything to do with things that create feeling and energy and connectivity and almost branding and taking you through. When did you first really decide you wanted to emphasize and get into that kind of a world? And thank God you did.
Well, I have told this story to many different young prospective composers, and also it's a valuable story, I think, for anyone in any discipline. My career, I wanted to be Paul Williams. I wanted to be Jimmy Webb, but I took a sideways turn because opportunities opened up for me. As I said, the opportunity to work over at Paramount and, get a chance to work on, Howard and I were writing music for episodes of Cheers and episodes of Taxi and episodes of Family Ties. And of course there was Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley. And it was like you were like almost a staff composer in those days.
Yes.
But it happened because it was just a sideways turn. I said, okay, well, maybe this is not the time I'm going to be Jimmy Webb or Paul. I'm going to take this sideways turn because, I had done some music for that movie back in college, The Only Way Home.
Yes.
So I just took the sideways turn.
Yeah.
And what happened was I realized that I had a really, I think, exaggerated melodic sense, because I really loved melody. So I mean, I wasn't listening to Iron Butterfly and Led Zeppelin. You know, I was listening to Carole King, and I was listening to James Taylor.
Yeah.
So, and these are people that write very, very melodic pieces. And I think I was able to use that as my entree into writing music for Paramount, because we're talking about back in the days where Gary Marshall, they loved beautiful music.
Yes.
And they, about 10 minutes to the hour, there would be some kind of a scene where they wanted really, really beautiful music.
Yeah.
And I've told this story before. I almost ended my career the day it started over there. I was supposed to write something for your print, Donna Pescow. And it was this nice scene between she and Robert Hayes. And it was during the disco era.
Yeah.
So instead of writing what I knew in my heart, beautiful music, I had this disco beat going on during this beautiful scene. And man, there were people, you know, just running around on telephones. Get this guy out of here. Who is this guy? You know, let's get him out of here, man. You know, and I was writing disco under them instead of something really beautiful. But I fortunately was able to think on my feet, and I changed that piece of music around, and it worked out fine.
And that happens a lot. There are times, like in these industries, where thinking on your feet it's immediate. You got to do it. How much of your work has included really having to do that, having to either, you know, redo it immediately or just create it as it's happening, which can be crazy, nutty, frustrating, but also beautiful and exciting as well, all at the same time?
Well, I tell you, thinking on your feet is critical. And as my friend, who I consider one of the people that, you know, the only reason I was able to do what I did was her name was Gail Maffeo, and she was a producer on Home Improvement, and along with Matt Williams and Carmen Finestra and David McFadden, they were the producers on Home Improvement. But Gail would tell me, I want something slightly different, and at first I would kind of, you know, I'd get kind of a little hot under the collar, you know. No, this is great. What are you talking about?
This is it. Yeah.
This is it. But, you know, you learn very fast. You have to listen to these wonderful people. And if there's something that needs to be slightly different, you take it to heart. And I got so I could really think on my feet. I really could think on my feet. You know, that's something you don't have to do, I think, quite as much today, because because of all the fact that you can do this in your home studio. You can let the director, the producer hear it. They hear almost the entire score, top to finish, you know, before you ever go out with a group of symphonic musicians.
Now, do you like that, or do you miss the way it used to be?
I miss it, man.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Henry for a second.
Yeah.
Henry Mancini, he was sitting there with Blake Edwards, and Blake said, would you like for me to give you a little premonition of what I've written for this movie? You know, I think this was a day or two before. He goes, no way. I want you to surprise me. And that is part of what I really, really loved about the days when you really had to think on your feet. These people were hearing this for the first time, and there was something magical about that. And I never built up my home studio. I mean, I have a keyboard back here, and I got some of the stuff, and thank goodness for my son Matt, who's helped me out with some of the technology. But I can tell you that in the old days, you had the musicians, and they were out there, and there was no, you know, mocking this stuff up. You just went for it. And I miss that, because that was part of the excitement for me, you know.
Do you miss working with I've got a couple of friends, Marlon Taylor, who's like godfather of beautiful music, radio, and easy listening all. And we've had conversations where I got a couple of music groups on the internet too, celebrating instrumental and easy music. And he was talking about one of the reasons why that format doesn't exist anymore, or, it does like on Sirius XM and some other stations and things. But in terms of the cost incurred, I guess, in having full orchestras and all the musicians doing these incredible, instrumental versions of pop music, of standards, of Christmas music throughout,
Sure.
which I have a climate controlled storage bin we pay monthly for that has tons of sealed LPs, reel to reels, CDs, cassettes of all kinds of music, but a lot of it is themes and instrumental versions of songs. And he's talking about, how it's missed that the expense, I guess, to have that amount of people, like the Percy Faith orchestras or some of them that would bring in all these brilliant session musicians and bring them together, and then they would do an interpretation of a popular song or a theme or something, is cost prohibitive, and as a result, it's very, very missed. Digital technology is fantastic, yet there's something missing a little bit in terms of just the sounds and the richness and the warmth and the fullness of having the real musicians there doing their thing.
It was fabulous. I mean, all of my first shows, Happy Days, Laverne, even the pilot to Bosom Buddies with Tom Hanks and Pierre Scolari. I mean, I had like 30 pieces, 30 musicians working on all those shows. And it was fabulous. Being able to do it at your house is great and everything, but having those wonderful musicians, and as I said, it was a great experience for the producers. I'm working with a producer, Rob Dames, that did the music. He was involved with producing the Love Boat, he produced a lot of wonderful shows, and he used to come down. And he would love hearing the music for his show, which was Marblehead Manor.
Mm-hmm.
He was also doing Benson at the time, but he loved going down there. And we're working on 2 musicals together right now, so that's been absolutely fabulous. But he was one of the producers I'm talking about that just loved coming down and hearing that music and having all those 30 musicians. I mean, how fabulous was that? So, I mean, you still get it in the big, movie scores. My friend Michael Giacchino, and who's having a fabulous career right now. He loves to work with large orchestras. But for the most part, in television in particular, I think it's more, there are not as many live musicians as there could be. I think there could be more.
We've had a couple of conversations, and I, not just on this show, but just again with family and friends about a lot of this. And I constantly mention to friends that are younger who are watching different things, different programs, showing them some of the classic television shows and movies, and how, there would be a full theme, a show open that had a full theme, and then credits would roll that would show, the credits, but would play that full theme as well. And how today people can hear the I Dream of Jeannie theme, Roseanne, Home Improvement, Seventh Heaven, Dick Van Dyke, the minute you hear these things, the Brady Bunch, what have you, what the show is. And today everything is quick. You're lucky if you get a dum before the show starts, and then a lot of times the credits are squeezed. You don't even hear the big open. And how important it was and is to have the theme songs, because automatically, not only was it for identification, you knew what the series was, but also it gave you a certain feeling towards that series that you looked forward to every week. Some of that has, I mean, you're an icon in the industry preparing and producing and composing this, but some of that has gone away, and I really wish that it would come back. That, and also jingles. I used to love jingles on radio stations, TV promos, and I'm a pepper, you're a pepper, everything. We were singing everything back then.
Well, you said it exactly. I mean, basically it was the theme song was supposed to pull you out of the kitchen. When you heard that, you heard Home Improvement. Oh, Home Improvement's on, and I mean, they gave me a lot of time. I mean, some of these shows, I even got like 2 minutes opening for a piece that they're now using on the reruns of Bosom Buddies. They used My Life for the original run. Now they're using a song that Howard Pearl and another great supporter of mine, Chris Thompson, wrote for Bosom Buddies. 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Roseanne was 1 minute and 10 seconds. So was Home Improvement. But yeah, I was asked on one of Chris's last shows I did with him, we had to do something for Leone that was 5 seconds long.
That's it.
Some of the new formats, with Netflix and some of the other companies, they are bringing some of the longer pieces back in as their theme songs. I think that, network television, they really kept those pieces down, to bare minimum, because they were afraid they were going to lose the audience. But, as you pointed out, it was just the opposite.
Yeah.
People really identified with those songs and those pieces.
Yeah.
And that's what I've tried to do in my career, is I've tried to imbue each show with its own signature sound.
Yes.
And we talked about Lawrence Juber. I want to tell you a little bit what's coming up, but I've got my guitar here.
Super. Look at that beauty.
I also, one of my passion places out here in California, if you're out here, is the Arboretum. It's the most beautiful public garden. It's out in Arcadia. And I was actually, I'm on the board of directors there. But this is made out of a fallen redwood tree. We had some terrible winds out here, and this craftsman built this guitar around this fallen redwood tree. It's amazing. But
beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
What I did with Lawrence Juber is I would give him these parts. He'd have to look at, I don't know if you can.
Yeah, we'll do that close up.
Let me hold this up. That's what Lawrence Juber had to sit down. He didn't have an hour to look at that. He'd look at it and I'd say, let's go. And he could read that down. And he's amazing.
A magician, yes.
One more Lawrence Juber. Okay, here is me. I look like I'm right out of Brooks Brothers or something there with the guitar, but there, look at Lawrence right next to me. I mean, he looks like a rock star. He still does. But I mean, there's Lawrence and there's me with our band called Afterglow. And my friend Gary Herbeck and Walt Johnson, a lot of Dominic is back there, Steve Reed, all these great players are back there, Mike Jokum. But at any rate, that's Lawrence. But at any rate, so I showed you that piece of music that Lawrence had to read. So I wrote all these open tunings. This one is in an open E flat. And so it imbued the music with a different sound every week. And so every week I would use a different tuning. And this is like, this is a little piece I wrote with Tom Shapiro, and I'll tell you about the project that we're doing with. Fade away with me. Let's get lost tonight. On this carousel, red light 9 to 5s, we'll turn out the world and light the lights. Fade away with me until reality is just a distant memory. Tonight, let's make it all about us. Girl, I just want to disappear with you anywhere you want to. Fade away with me. So that is a
Thank you. That is cool. Yeah. That is
So anyway,
awesome.
that's an open tuning, and that's what LJ
Yeah.
played on all these different TV shows. Was a different one every week, and he'd have to read that music like I just showed you.
Yes.
But anyway, that song was written with Tom Shapiro, who I wrote that first score for that movie, The Only Way Home with. He went on to become a Nashville Songwriter Hall of Fame. And now we are back revisiting all the songs that we wrote when we were in our 20s. And I'm demoing up some of these songs in Nashville with these incredible musicians. Wow. And we're just figuring there might be something that we can would do with some of those old songs. It's amazing what, once again, the musicians, what some of these great Nashville musicians, what they can bring to these these older songs. But,
Nashville has just become a real gem of a place, huh? It's just a real hub for great music and musicians. A lot of people moving there, I have a lot of friends that have moved from New York and other places. They're making that their home and just loving it too. Yeah.
Well, when I went into television music, he moved to Nashville, and he's done amazing. And I think I've gotten him excited about these songs. It's like we met each other when we were two guys. We were 16 years of age, and we met in the south of France, and we started writing songs to impress the girls. Okay. We were over there. We were supposed to be over there, like studying French at this university in Aix-en-Provence. Yes. But instead, we started writing songs together. And I'm not sure that we had to impress them, because there were 53 girls on this trip and there were only 3 guys. So but anyway, we started writing songs together. But getting back together 50 years later and revisiting some of these songs, maybe we'll put them into some kind of musical project, a theater piece or something.
Wouldn't that be cool, huh?
Yeah.
To be able to do that. I mean, my God. Keep us posted. I would hope that happens. You mentioned Lawrence Truber, fantastic guy, and he passed through here as well. He's on a cruise right now. He's on one of those cruise ships performing. So he's out to sea, which is kind of cool. Have you ever done any of that?
Well, I have been. In fact, that's another thing I'm passionate about. I met this calypso artist about the time I was doing those radio shows with my dad and singing Marianne. I met this calypso singer when I was about 12 or 13. I went back and reconnected with him 40 years later. And his name was Count Bernardino. Mm-hmm. And he was the greatest performer. Man, he would sing, Yellow Bird, or he would sing these original songs. So I've taken all this footage of the Count, and unfortunately he passed away, but we got a chance to know each other really, really well. And so I haven't taken a cruise, but I've been in Nassau, Bahamas. That's where he lived. And I'm thinking that I might want to try and, meld these into a documentary or something, because he was an amazing, amazing guy.
I want to tell people just a brief little list of some of the incredible shows and things that you've been a part of that they will definitely remember. Of course, I mentioned Beverly Hills 90210, House Rules, Soul Man, Savannah, that's another one, Savannah, Maloney, Malibu Shores, Pier 66, The Naked Truth, Larsons of Las Vegas, the TV movie, Burke's Law, that TV series, University Hospital, Monty, The Little Mermaid, The Royal Family, of course, Paradise, another fantastic one, Carol and Company, it's on and on, Married to the Mob, Adventures in Babysitting, Brothers, CBS Summer Playhouse, and of course, we were talking about Home Improvement and Roseanne, Seventh Heaven, 8 Simple Rules, The Secret Life of the American Teenager, St. George, Girl Meets World. What's cool about it is the variety of themes and feels for all of these various shows. And that's just really the shortlist gang of the incredible work that our very special guest, Dan Foliart, has done. Paradise is one that's quite interesting, and I know is near and dear to your heart as well, with its theme. Tell us about that and why that one is particularly,
That
important for
was
you.
that was that was one of my favorites because I was able to write real Americana music. We had a large orchestra, and I coupled my guitar work that I wrote on the guitar, and is really where Lawrence and I really hit it off. You saw this one page that I held up. He had to play things that were like 5 minutes long, and he would unwind these things like these accordion pages. There must have been 25 or 30 pages. And so I got to write a lot of music. Some of the shows I've written were just short compositions. This was a lot of music.
Yeah.
And I got to write hugely melodic stuff, like almost like folk music, like The River is Wide and Shenandoah. I used a lot of, those types of melodies, as well as this just kicking ass guitar that Lawrence played on the 12-string guitar. Sometimes he would just be smashing that thing, and man, you'd see the guys riding the horses and heading out, and here's Lawrence, bam, just nailing that guitar. And my mother gave me that guitar. I got it over here. She gave me that when I was in the 10th grade, I think. We talked about Glenn Campbell, who I idolized.
Yes.
And
hello to Debbie, if I think she's watching as well, and she was a great guest on the series. She's wonderful.
Well, her dad, I got a chance to meet him when Tom and I met him when I was 16, right after that summer I told you about.
Yeah.
Anyway, he had a song called Gentle on My Mind. And I used to play that at our high school assemblies, and everyone started calling me Glenn. And I tell you, if she is watching, I have the distinction of having a wonderful recording that Glenn did of one of my songs that was never released. It's called Still You, and he is so fabulous on it. And I'm just hoping one of these days there had been some discussion about maybe releasing some of the things that hadn't been released by him. But that is, because Glenn was just the best. And of course, Jimmy Webb was hugely associated with him by the time we get to Phoenix and Wichita Lineman and Galveston, but he was fabulous. I also, the last piece of music you heard on Home Improvement when that show ended was by Kenny Rogers. And that also has not been released, but I'm fortunate to have gotten a Emmy nomination out of that.
Yes. How'd you get that sound in there?
Well, that's incredible. That's a good question. First of all, there are probably about 50 Tool sounds in there, but so Matt Williams took me down. Gail may have been there to see Tim Allen do his live show here in Los Angeles, and he kept doing that. He kept doing it. He said that was because that at the dinner table the kids wouldn't even talk to him. They'd just go
grunting.
He'd grab that chicken or whatever it was, and so he was doing that. And I said, that would be a really cool thing to incorporate into the theme song. So along with these 50 Tools, we have that grunt. And of course, Lawrence played on that, as did Gary Herbeck and all my friends that I've mentioned before. They were fabulous. But I wanted to tell you about, let's go back to Seventh Heaven for just a second. Lawrence and I have been trying to get all this music that I wrote for Seventh Heaven out on an album so people could hear this music.
It's fantastic music.
And so I tell you what, I think we are very, very close to getting an album out that will have a lot of the music that features Lawrence and the rest of the band. But I think we're very close to maybe getting that out. And it's all that open guitar tuning, like I was just playing for you. It's mainly that kind of work, but it's some stuff I'm very, very proud of. And Lawrence, I mean, how many albums has he done? He's the best at doing this.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now, how did this opportunity happen to be involved in this WB series that ran for, quite a few years? Beloved.
Well, I tell everyone you've got to have certain champions in your life. And for this particular show, it brought two champions in my life: Kenny Miller, who ran the music department over at Seventh Heaven, and Joel Feigenbaum. Yeah. And Joel he directed a lot of the episodes of Seventh Heaven. Mm-hmm. And so between those two people, I was brought in on episode 7, and I think when I started playing that kind of music, I was playing for you, they felt like, wow, I think that is the right sound for this show. So 11 years later, it was even canceled after 10 seasons, and then it changed channels.
Yes,
for one other season on the WB. But
I remember
that. 11 years, man, and a lot of open guitar tunings over all those years. But anyway, I think people will hear Lawrence Schubert fans are going to, hear a different side of Lawrence. And certainly, I'm really proud of this this music. It's really fabulous. I give all my credit to my wonderful musical team. And so hopefully you'll be hearing that. I think Lawrence would like to get this going maybe by the summer or something. So
that is fantastic. Really, really cool. Yeah, we'll keep abreast of all of that and keep us posted, and maybe have you come back or have both of you on. Or that'd be kind of cool as well. Here's another one. I mentioned this. How did you get involved with The Secret Life of the American Teenager? A lot of people know this one too, which now I believe is on Netflix too.
Yeah. Okay, another person. I like to talk about my champions.
Yes, which is very cool of you to do that, to celebrate those who bring opportunity. And, not a lot of people do that. And I'm a big believer in that. So that's fantastic.
Well, I'm very loyal to my musical team. And,
yes,
and these people have been very loyal to me. The producer who got to know me on Seventh Heaven, her name is Brenda Hampton. She's a wonderful producer, wonderful writer, genius in her own right. When she moved over, when Seventh Heaven was over, she got on this new show, and it was absolutely ABC Family's #1 show. Right out of the bat, it was a great show. Yeah. And Shailene Woodley's become a big star.
Yes.
And at any rate, that came through Brenda Hampton. And she also has been wonderful. I mean, I think one thing I've been very fortunate about is having people through the years that had a lot of confidence in whatever I'm doing. They feel like, if I'm doing it, that it's going to be right for their show. And Brenda felt that way about me, as did Gail and Matt. And so I've led a blessed life.
Yes.
I got to tell you.
Yes. Yes.
Because some people have had people hammering on them like day in, day out.
Right.
I've been lucky. I for the most part, I've been very, very lucky.
You've had the freedom to do what you do so well. And we mentioned Charles Fox, another brilliant person known for so much great music as well. What about, and of course, like the Angie theme you mentioned, I remember, I think it's Aaron Spelling, the prolific television producer, 70s, 80s. I mean, everything you could think of, it was touched at that period by Aaron Spelling. And he was quoted once. They asked him, of all these television shows and series and movies and everything that you've been involved in, Aaron, what of all the television side of things are you most proud of? What series are you most proud of all of them? And he said the series that ran in the late 70s into the early 80s, Family, with Seda Thompson and James Broderick, Christy McNichol, Gary Frank, Meredith Baxter Burney, Quinn Cummings. And that was, of everything he did, that was the one he was most proud of. And it was a brilliant series. And John Rubinstein did the music, fantastic music underscoring for that series as well. For you, are there projects, pieces of work for you that really stand out? I mean, you love it all. They're like your babies, of course, but are there certain ones that for you are your personal picks, your personal favorites?
Well, first of all, you mentioned Aaron Spelling, Seventh Heaven, and Burke's Law and University Hospital, and all those shows you were bringing up were all Aaron Spelling. Were all Aaron Spelling shows. Beverly Hills 90210. You know, I didn't get to know Aaron, but he seemed to like my music anytime it showed up in the room, and so he was great. You know, it's hard to say because certainly having the chance to work on shows like Home Improvement, you know, was a wonderful experience. I think, you know, probably if I could have done, you know, more shows like Guns of Paradise, where I had pieces of music that ran for like 5 minutes at the end of a show. I mean, I had a huge amount of music in that show, and it was, you know, once again, I mentioned it's, you know, getting a chance to write those wonderful Americana themes, which, by the way, I must mention that, you know, I don't know, Jim, if you've had this happen with your life at all, but there's certain things that I've just kind of put on the back burner. You know, I'll get to it one of these days. You know, 10 years go by, 20 years go by.
Yes.
30 years went by. And I finally finished during COVID, The Trail of Tears. It tells the story of the Indian removal, a terrible, terrible chapter in American history. From, you know, Tennessee and North Carolina to Oklahoma. And I finally, after 30 years, have finished this piece, The Trail of Tears. And it was supposed to be on the heels of Oklahoma Trilogy that I had performed back during the centennial of Oklahoma. And I see a couple of my Oklahoma friends that were at that presentation or on this chat. But I finally finished this thing. Now I got to get it performed. But it's a 20-minute symphony, and it has Native American elements, and it should be absolutely something that is going to be fabulous when I can finally get off the ground.
Fantastic. Congratulations on that. I can just hear the enthusiasm and passion in the tone of your voice. Remember I said to you off air that I was saying the show has a lot of light, love, levity, and we do it like a television series, not necessarily really like a typical interview show, though we are interviewing. I don't even call these interviews. I call these conversations, much warmer, different style. And I mentioned that I had said it too fast, and I said that the show is Lovity. And the audience jumped on it, and they said, all right, you're Mr. Lovity. This is Lovity Hall. We're your Lovity squad. And you, all the guests, are part of the Lovity family. Well, they've already adopted you in all these comments. We'll show some of these in just a minute. But we have another Lovity who's joining us as well, Cheryl.
Oh,
can't wait.
There's my beautiful wife.
There is your wife. She's watching the Jim Master Show live. We love her. Cheryl, welcome to the Lovity family here. And she says she can't wait for the Seventh Heaven release as well.
Well, we've been waiting a long time for that one too, Jim. You know, I don't know. Everything takes time, though. You know, have you got anything that you have sat around with for years and you haven't done that you want to get done? Or have you gotten them all done at the time that you imagined?
You know what takes me forever to do is updating my demo reel, especially my television demo reel. And you know why? And I've had a couple of conversations with guests who've come through who are on air, or they're in the public eye, they're performers, whether they're television hosts or actors or what have you. And what it is with me is I keep saying, you know, I'll do all this work, and then I'll keep saying, you know what? I'll wait and I'll update that demo reel when I do that next thing, because that
Yeah.
next thing I do is going to top the thing I just did. Now, I might be on set or in the studio or whatever on location where everybody involved, producers, everybody, they're like, oh, that was fantastic. You nailed it. It was terrific. Spot on. Great job. High five. But for me, it takes me a little while to appreciate the work I just did. Maybe a little perfectionistic there too, but I'm so wrapped up in the emotion of, I like to feel things. The questions I always ask in life, on air and off, is always why. So I'm somebody who likes to feel. That's why I love underscoring. I'm looking for the feel. But it takes me a while because I'll always say to myself, gee, everybody said that was great, spot on the whole bit. But I'm still wrapped up in the emotion of what I just did. So I need a little distance from it to really appreciate it. So when something pops on television or what have you, and we're watching it, usually I'm watching with a critical eye, being in the industry, but I'll have, the family and friends around, and I'll say, now, I'm going to ask you this question that I've probably asked you 1,000 times, but if you're watching this guy, me, is he convincing you? Is he persuading you? Are you? And they're like, absolutely. It's interesting because I'm trying to get out of doing that, of saying that the next thing I do, that will go on the demo reel. That will be what I want to showcase. That'll be the thing that knocks him dead. But that could take forever. You should just put the other stuff on and all the other work you've done, because that was terrific too. So I could pull out tapes of stuff I've done. I don't know if this is you, 20 years ago on television and radio and all, and watch it now without the critical eye, because the emotion is not there like it was coming right off the heels of doing it. And so I'll watch it and I'll say, you know what, considering that level of experience or whatever was going on in the studio, the craziness of it all, and they kept saying that was really good. Now, all these years later, I'll say, actually, that wasn't bad. But it takes time for me to be distant from the emotion that I've invested in it, for me to absolutely love it immediately, even if the world is saying they do, because I care about it so much. I'm so wrapped up in it. And I know you're that way too, because you're doing this work and you get so involved and wrapped up emotionally in it and the feeling of it. And you also self-impose, like sometimes I self-impose, super importance on what it is. I really want to get it right. And I want people to be inspired and empowered by it and moved by it. I don't want to just throw it together and next, like assembly line. I want each thing to be, sort of groundbreaking in a way. How about you with all that? Does it take you a while to update your demo reel?
Well, listen, I don't know if my daughter is watching this, but my daughter helped me with my, Lauren helped me with my website. She did a great job. But don't look too closely at that, Jim. There's some pretty stale stuff on there that's been sitting on there for a while. But you're also a more courageous man than I am to sit down and go, would this person convince you? I would be convinced that there's no way that I could convince you. So I wouldn't have the nerve to sit there and ask someone, hey, am I convincing you? Because I know the answer is deep down, no, Dan, not at all. You're a courageous man. And I'll tell you what, your shows, I mean, have been certainly testimonial to all the great work. I don't think you need a demo reel, man. Just show them this show. I mean, you don't need to freshen it up, man. It's great.
just keep doing it. Just keep doing it, right?
Absolutely.
Cranking it out. Sometimes it gets crazy because I created this series as an extension of my, professional work in television and radio and film. And, I'll work full time in the day in the studios or on location, and then run in here and get this going and do all the work behind the scenes. But I love it. We're talking like 650 episodes we have done, almost 7 days a week live.
Wow.
And it's a monster, but I tell you, it takes me, after I do even a show like this where we're seated and it's warm and conversational, I don't go to bed till 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm still high. I got to come down from it
Sure.
all, especially with it's, I love live and I love any, there's no net, anything can happen. There's no scripted questions. You have no idea what I'm asking. And we're just flowing and going in a warm conversational style. And I think that makes such a big difference. I've done so much live work that I've loved doing this series live. Speaking of which, that also gives us the opportunity to get great words like this. Gary Bramble says, from Oklahoma City, an Amherst friend, has thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you, Dan, from Guy Watching.
Great. Well, listen, Guy, thanks for being on there. We're gonna have to get together when Jim, we have 2 houses back in Oklahoma. So
We do.
so we're gonna have to go back there. In fact, I might even have some friends from Frederick, Oklahoma, a little small town in southwest Oklahoma. I may have some friends out there. But listen, I tell you, you are great at this. I can tell you because as president of the Society of Composers and Lyricists, I probably interviewed 200 people.
Yeah.
What we'd do is we'd take the composers, songwriters, like Marvin Hamlish, or
yes.
Bon Jovi. We definitely had a nice turnout for Bon Jovi, but we'd get them up on stage, and I would interview them kind of like you're interviewing me. And you've got a real knack for it, man. And I just appreciate you bringing me on this show.
I love it myself. I've been so excited to have you on, Dan. I truly admire your work. I want to show a couple of, you were gracious enough to send along some really cool photos, and I'd love to we'll sprinkle them in, and maybe you can tell us what we're seeing here. This is at Paramount, right?
Yeah, that's at Paramount. Okay. I'm glad you pulled this one up.
Yeah.
That was when I first started Trail of Tears 30 years ago.
Was it really?
I have the first 6 minutes that's a 60-piece orchestra.
Wow.
Unfortunately, that studio has been torn down. It's just it's
Yeah.
a tragedy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is right there at Paramount, and I'm doing the first 6 minutes of Trail of Tears. And I figured probably within the next month and a half I'd be finished with it. I didn't know it'd be 30 years later.
Is that amazing? That's how it goes.
There it is. There it is. Trail of Tears.
Who is this?
Oh man, that's
looking dude here. Wow.
That was a long time ago.
I'm sure Cheryl likes this photo, right? Cheryl, thumbs up. That's a lovely photo, huh?
I feel
Could have got into the acting world. I think you said you did some, right?
That was during that era,
Yeah.
But I feel okay about you doing this because on one of those interviews I'm talking about for the SCL, I interviewed George Clooney, and he had just done a movie, and Alexander Desplat, the composer, was up there.
Yeah.
But before we went on stage, George was out. And of course, he had a lot of the ladies gathered around.
Yeah.
You can imagine maybe George might have a gathering of some of the ladies out there. And he was pulling back all these pictures from when he was about that age. And we did a show together. He was in Bodies of Evidence, which is a show I did at CBS. And he was also in Roseanne. You probably don't know that. But anyway, we hit it off because I said, man, I was right there at the beginning of your career. And he's pulling out these pictures from when he's in his 20s. And all the girls were going crazy over looking at these pictures.
There's a cool shot too.
That's
Paul Williams. And
those are my great friends. On the right is John Tita, who's head of our membership at ASCAP. And of course, Paul is there. And I'm standing there with a Roseanne statuette, and there's Beth Matthews, who is our incredible CEO, and Sean Lamone, who runs the television film area of ASCAP. And I think I'm standing on with that statue of Roseanne, and I don't know if she had tweeted by that time, but what I think she had.
The famous
I think
tweet,
she had, because I think what I told people is I'm sure glad that there wasn't Twitter like 30 years ago, because I think Anyway, right
Now,
after I got that statue,
that's a cool
I was unemployed in about 2 hours. So anyway, that's
that's the nature of this crazy industry, huh?
that's kind of a fun picture there.
Now, we look at Dennis. Yo, Dan, great to see you. I missed
Oh
stage end
man,
too. Dennis
Dennis
watching.
Dreef. Listen, this guy is one of the great composers in town, and we did a show, and it's funny that it happened with Roseanne. I did this big band arrangement because Dennis has an incredible big band,
Yeah.
and so I did this ba da da, well, the trumpets and everything, and everyone was going crazy. And oh, Dan, great! And I think about later that week, she did the tweet. So that was the last time I got a chance to play that Roseanne thing. But at any rate, that was with Dennis Dreef's band.
That was cool to have him comment. Thanks, Dan. Welcome, everybody who's joining us for the first time. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. We'd love it. Look at this shot.
Okay, I'll explain that one to you. First of all, that's LJ back in the back. I just want you to know.
Yes.
There he is. So the way I get my band warmed up on all these shows, which was much to the chagrin, I think, of Gail Maffeo and certainly my wife, Cheryl, when she was running the department at Disney, I'd like to do like Elvis songs to get everyone warmed up, the band. And I think I'm probably singing Jailhouse Rock by my friend Mike Stoller right there. But anyway, I'd get everyone revved up by doing Elvis to kind of get the band together, and that's where I was. And Sally Stevens took that photo. She is one of the great photographers, and of course she is the famous singer that has sung with everyone. I think she even goes back to Jan and Dean, but anyway, she took that picture. She's a great photographer.
That's a great show. There's Jimmy Webb. You're talking about Jimmy Webb. Yeah.
There's my man, Jimmy Webb. I had a chance to interview him. Listen, man, that's the reason I'm a good critique for you, because I've had to interview people. I was interviewing him at NYU. We were over there. Ron Sadoff was nice enough to open up the room over there at NYU, and I talked to Jimmy about Oklahoma and all his great songs and everything. I think he had just gotten through playing us like MacArthur Park or something like that.
Yeah.
But what a great songwriter he is, and it's so cool, Laura, because she, as I said, she's become such a great friend over the last few years.
Absolutely. Here's another cool shot. Look at this.
All right, there's LJ, and that's okay. That's my musical team there. That's Steve Reed on the right. I call him the king of the garden weasel because he'll pull any kind of percussion instrument and play it. He plays the garden weasel. That's Jim Cox, who has worked with James Taylor, and he's over working with Mark Knopfler on a new project right now over in England. Dominic Genova, great bass player, has been with me since the Angie days, and Lawrence Chuber, looking right there. And I'm holding up a piece of music with Avi Kipper, who's the great engineer. Did that. I'm looking up at the screen, trying to see if I think I did a good job of scoring that particular piece of music. That's over at Capitol, as was the previous one. That's my favorite place to work, Capitol Studios in Hollywood.
Really incredible.
Yeah, that's another thing about my career, man. I got a chance to do all my sessions at studios like Capitol.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
so many people do it like in their home studios, man.
Yeah.
It's not like being in Capitol.
There's something when you go into, I find that too, because, I've done work, you can do work from home, you can do anything from anywhere, but there's something about when you're going into a studio and all the equipment's there and there's a team and there's a lot of history in the building and there's just something about it. I mean, if you're somebody that's in tune with that, I always have it. I've always paid homage to it and great respect to the people that came before, the people that laid the groundwork, and then you go into these studios and it's like, wow, you know what I mean? And you're a part of that, how, blessed we are to do work that we love doing, how blessed we are. And I'm sure you say that all the time, don't you?
Absolutely. And Capitol Studios, I guess by the end of this show, we'll get out all my back burner projects. I've had an idea for for a TV series with a musical component that my daughter Lauren's helping me with. And one of the key things that happens in this show is there is a segment there at Capitol. So hopefully we'll get that off the ground one of these days.
That would be really, really cool. Yeah. Very exciting to see that. Here's another. You mentioned again, LJ.
There he is. There he is. I hope he sees this. I hope he
yes, he said when he comes back from the cruise, because he's performing on the cruise ship. I spoke to him yesterday, and to Debbie Campbell, let them know you were going to be on. And I believe Debbie is tuned in, and LJ was going to watch when he gets back from sailing the high seas, keeping everybody entertained on the high seas.
Oh, man. I can't imagine it. You'd be so blessed to be a member of that audience. Have LJ playing.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. It's another cool shot.
Oh man, this was way back. Okay, so this is when I first got into town, and this was at Warner Brothers Studios, and I went there. The guy in the middle with the glasses is Sid Sharp, and Sid played. If you listen to the records from the 1960s and 70s, Sid was the concert master, the lead violin on like almost every record that you could have possibly imagined. And he was great to me. That's where I met him. We were recording a song that my friend Bet Dye was singing, and Bet was thinking she might be able to tune in. We recorded it and got it played on the radio, but Sid Sharp is there. We were listening to a playback, and there I have, I think I've got grapefruit on that shirt that I'm wearing there.
Yeah.
But, I'm sitting there with Frank Jones and John Neal, the engineer at Warner Brothers Studio, another great studio. It's now a mixing stage. It's not a recording studio, this particular room.
That's incredible, huh? You have an opportunity to work with some of these people. You've got another.
I saw Sedaka there, man. I saw Sedaka when he was probably about the age I was in that picture.
Yeah.
He had a song called Breaking Up Is Hard to Do.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I saw him years and years later when the Carpenters were recording that song over there at Warner Brothers in that studio. And that was very cool to see the Carpenters and Neil Sedaka sitting there with the great Jimmy Haskell, the arranger. So
are there, Jimmy Haskell, absolutely. Are there folks that you wish that you had an opportunity to work with, maybe who are no longer with us? And you're oh boy, would have been great to, partner up with them.
Well, I tell you, one of the regrets I have in my life is I'm very close friends with Hal David's widow. And I said, we had such a great relationship. I just never wanted to bring up writing with him. And she said, Dan, he would have written with you in a second if you had brought it up to him. And so, I mean, that was certainly something I really miss. But I mean, it's like I was very interested in baseball, I told you, and I start looking at all these great athletes who played for the Yankees, and I think about the great entertainers. I'm singing their songs, a lot of them, like Bobby V, for an example. And Bobby V passed away about 2 or 3 years ago, and I just wish I could have seen him again.
Wow.
And the great singer from that era who was very nice to me, Jimmy Rogers. I met his son recently. But there were a lot of these, particularly now I'm getting into this, reliving a lot of these old songs. Some of these people that are not with us anymore, I like Bobby V. I wish I had gotten a chance to know him. But I've been blessed working with everyone I've worked with.
If we were to come over to your house, and by the way, I got to tell you, the lighting on you right now is fantastic. I guess the sun's going down behind you, so the lighting in your home there looks fantastic. That's $1 million lighting you got going now.
You can thank my son Matt for that.
Well, actually, while we're there, tell us about that room. You got a lot of beautiful things in that room.
Well, back behind me there were all these TV guides that my shows were on. Roseanne.
I used to collect TV guides. Every week collected those things.
my friend Gary Nardino, who was a great producer, he produced Brothers and a lot of shows I worked with over at Paramount. He had that in his office over at Paramount, and I thought that was a cool idea. So I have Seventh Heaven up there and with my great friend Stephen Collins. I've got Home Improvement up there. I got Carol Burnett, Carol and Company. And then I have Roseanne down on the bottom left. And then I have that show, Savannah, and another show I did called Island Sun. And then over here, I've got some ASCAP awards back. You can see that kind of the corner of that over there. Out there is a pool where I rarely use it. You wouldn't use it today. It was cold, man. It was really cold out there in LA, if you can believe that. And then I have my family shot sitting around here. Oh, here's one. Here's one back when I had my concert when I was at Amherst College. I'm sitting there playing with a string quartet, and that string quartet I thought they were pretty good until I heard we recorded the same song right there that you asked me about with Sid Sharp, the violinist. And man, there was a lot of difference between a college string section and Sid Sharp. So that was kind of fun. But you know, I have my parents up here and my kids, and it's a really homey place. I got a lot of guitars around. I don't have as many as LJ does, but
you got a keyboard behind you, right? A white one.
I got a keyboard. More importantly, you can't really see it over here. I got the old upright that I wrote Roseanne on, and I wrote Oklahoma Trilogy on it. Still sitting up here. And Jim, it's never coming out of this room because we put the window in. We thought we could take the window out if we ever move out. You can't take it out. The space is too small. So this piano is going to stay here for all times. And it's an upright piano.
It's an upright piano. Yeah. Absolutely.
I got all my stuff. I got my, you know, from the Night Riders and Scholars days, I had my amp from where I played back in the 7th and 8th grade, man. It's sitting right over there. I got all my things around here. I
love that. And there's something that I have, that scrapbooks and all the things from the career and family. It creates a grounding, and it creates a certain feeling that just keeps your feet on the ground to have that around you. And it's very inspirational at the same time, which I think is great. If we were to come over, I was going to say, if we were going to come over to, you know, your home, and we were going to listen, we're going to dig into your boombox or your iPod or your stereo system and turntable, which I still have all of mine with the double cassette deck and turntable and big speakers and everything. What would be in it? What do you like to listen to? You're surrounded with music so much. What is some of the go-to stuff for Dan?
Cheryl's going to love this one. So she had this old phonograph player from her childhood, and it was so beat up, man. It was totally beat up, but she said, it means something to me. I'm going to get this fixed. So she got her record player fixed, and it's from probably the mid 1950s. And what we're playing these days is the Great American Songbook. Man, you're going to hear a lot of Nat King Cole on there. You're going to hear Chet Baker. You're going to hear some Frank on there. You're going to hear a lot of the classics, Bobby Darin. You know that song, Somewhere Beyond the Sea, that Bobby did.
Yeah.
It was one of his big ones. One of my best friends who I've written many songs with, Arthur Hamilton, he wrote Cry Me a River. Mm-hmm. He has a song on that Bobby Darin record. So we're playing that a lot. And I'm always calling, hey, Arthur, I'm listening to She Needs Me. You know? And so I would say a lot of the great American Songbook, that's my favorite stuff to listen to. And of course, during the summer, we got to put some Bahamas music. Count Bernardino plays all the time. And his son, I know he was going to see this. I hope he sees this, because his son, I just want you to know, Jimmy Jam, man, I am Joey Jam. I am listening to your dad's music during the summer nonstop. He one of the great inspirations of my life, Joey. So at any rate, So
You
that's
mentioned disco. Do you ever whip out some disco records?
well,
That was all real instruments.
it was good stuff, man. I
Yeah,
mean,
I know. I know.
the
I
Bee
enjoy it.
Gees, the Bee
Yeah.
Gees, and
AC and the Sunshine Band.
did you like? I liked it when the
Andrew True
Very
Connection.
good would go, stay alive, stay alive. He'd jump up and do all that stuff. But yeah, I love disco. They did a disco version of MacArthur Park that was
Yes, I've heard that.
man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They used to do that.
Yeah, I love that stuff. That's not what I'm listening to right now. I'm listening to the Great American Songbook,
Yes. Yeah.
How about you? What do you listen to around the house?
I tell you, well, there was we have a lot of smooth jazz.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've met and worked with him. I had an opportunity to interview Chris Bodie on PBS, and
he's
one of the nicest guys on the planet, really, Chris. Chris and the Yellow Jackets and Spyro Gyra, wonderful guitarist.
Oh man, I gotta get you our Afterglow album, man. Dennis Dreeth will know about Afterglow because that was my fusion band. I tell you what.
Oh, I would love that.
I'm gonna send you some of the Afterglow cuts. All right, keep going.
There's a fabulous guitarist I've always enjoyed, Peter White. From England. He's really fantastic as well. The Yellow Jackets, the Ripping Tins, Spyro Gyra. And then I'll pull out, because I have such a collection. And I think it really is because of my father and the exposure of having the big wood stereo system in the living room. And as a kid, I would go through his records and pull out, the Burke Camphor stuff and the Mancini and, the Percy Faith and a lot of that too, the real fantastic orchestral stuff.
Yeah.
And just
those
listen.
Are the records I'm talking about, man.
I love that stuff.
Those are from my parents.
Yes.
That's what I'm listening to.
Me too. Yeah, that's good. That's good music. That really is. And you know what's really cool about it? Because I have, lots of it on. I used to tape it off the radio when I was a kid, and again the storage bin.
Me too. I just put the speaker up next to the radio, and I'd be hearing Bobby V, and I'd be hearing Frankie Avalon and Bobby Vinton and all these. Yeah.
So I'm listening, believe it or not, I'm pulling out the cassettes that I made and playing them, and they sound really good. I'm like, my God, that just, like the mixtape of all this music. And it's like, wow. So I'll play some of that, especially the instrumental stuff for, folks that are friends who have never heard it before, because they don't necessarily hear it on the radio now. And they'll be like, man, where did you get this stuff? Is this new? Is this new music? And I'm like, it's instrumental stuff that they heard, everywhere. And they're like, is this new? Wow, listen to the, the fullness, the richness, the warmth. You can hear the instruments and just really get into it and feel swept away by it all. And I'm like, no, this actually, is stuff that was on the radio for 50 years. And wasn't made yesterday. It wasn't made today. They're like, my God, that sounds so good. There's no auto tune, and it's not, a lot of things now. You have the auto tune, you have the, everything is so compressed. I know that they make music louder now, so it could grab everybody. So it sort of flattens the sound. Some things are tinny and there's no bass and warmth. I mean, I love listening to the music on my Onkyo receiver and, turntable and double cassette deck with the KLH speakers. I love music that fills the house. I love when it's wafting from room to room. I also have had a couple of conversations with musicians who've been on our series. I love, for some strange reason, I don't know why, a lot of times, we have the music coming at us from the speakers, or we go to a concert or whatever, and the music's coming at you. But I also equally really love music that's coming from behind me. The stereo system is behind me, and the speakers are behind me, and the music is sweeping sort of over me. There's something about that effect that I really, really like, what's coming from behind, that just knocks me on my feet. Does that make? I'm sure
you're coming over to my house, buddy, because you and I are the same guy. I want you to know what's playing. I want you to know what's playing. What my receiver is the one that my dad gave me to head off to college with. That runs the entire house.
Yes,
that runs the house. And now we have Cheryl's big old record player, the way you talked about, but it runs my whole house. It hadn't broken down one time since I went to college.
Isn't that incredible?
That's it.
Just that. Well, they made stuff well, they really built stuff well, it's
now,
like,
if we have some audio files on this, I'm going to look like an idiot, but it's running the house.
We talked just real briefly how I've always enjoyed, and I think 'cause I've worked in news too, I love TV news themes and the importance of a good news theme and what it does to create the excitement for what's coming up next. And then you have the Ernie Anderson voiceover announcer coming on Eyewitness News and all of that. And a little bit of trivia, and you probably already know this, and I think I mentioned it on the show. One of the legendary news themes that was created in the late 70s that you still hear elements of modernized today, and it's had various versions, is one of my favorite, and it's the one where you hear, and I think you can hear it all over the country, but it definitely was tied to the CBS stations, CBS owned and operated stations, and that's da 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 da. And that Channel 2 news theme, as they call it, was written by, do you remember the trumpet player, jazz trumpet player, and jingle writer Dick Marks in Chicago?
Yeah.
Dick Marks, who
wrote that?
WBBM Channel 2 in Chicago said, we want a new theme back in the 70s. So Dick from Chicago would write themes for, the Chicago Bulls and commercials and all kinds of things. He was a prolific jingle writer and a theme writer, and he was commissioned to create a theme for just that CBS affiliate in Chicago, WBBM Channel 2. And it was da 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 da, and the whole drama, the real instruments and fabulous visuals of the skyline of Chicago, and you're watching Channel 2 News, that whole thing. It became so popular that CBS itself said, we want to take that song and we want it for all of the newscasts for our CBS owned and operated stations. So Channel 2, WCBS in New York, KCBS in Los Angeles, WCAU, Channel 10 in Philadelphia, all the CBS owned. And what's really fascinating about it is you can hear it, where you are in LA on Channel 2, different modernized versions. Here it is, 40 years later, and they still use that. And
that's a great one, man. That's a great
and there are words to it. There's just one phrase that nobody really knew until recently or something like that. Or I found out myself recently. And the part where it goes da 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 is I love Chicago, Chicago, my home. That's what that really means. So wherever you are now, every time you hear that, you're going to hear, I love Chicago, Chicago, my home, even if you're hearing it in LA or Philadelphia or New York or Boston. That's where that came from. And
I know that
stuff.
I know that piece well. I know that piece well.
And his son is Richard Marks, the singer, of course.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I'll be right here waiting for you and all those 80s songs. Yeah.
Oh, he's a fabulous songwriter. My friend John Walmsley, who played the second oldest child on the Waltons TV series, toured with him, and John and I are writing some blues songs together right now. But he went. I remember Richard. On these shows, you have to go from one city to another and to another to another. And he got up in Oklahoma City. And he goes, hello, Kansas City. And everyone's kind of looking around. He had just obviously been in Kansas City the night before. So anyway, I don't know if he'd appreciate that story or not, but
Cool stuff, huh? Why do you love doing what you do, my friend? What is it about this that still, all these years later, all this prolific, I mean, all of these incredible accolades, all of these awards, I mean, even we didn't touch upon it really. Maybe we can sprinkle that in before we wrap, but the opportunity to be involved with ASCAP and to be a part of the board and, co-chairman and writer and all. What is that like for people that aren't familiar with that work?
Well, I'll answer your first question first. It's about the music for me. It always has. I could have, maybe started a whole factory of having a lot of people working for me, and a lot of people do that very successfully. That wasn't it for me. What intrigues me is sitting down and you're coming up with something new. You're coming up with something on the guitar. You're coming up with something on the piano. You're coming up with something in your head, and just the magic of being able to do that just is what has driven me and what I still love. And I want to just keep doing it for as long as I can. Now, as far as ASCAP goes, it's the greatest organization I could ever imagine being involved with. Besides working with all those wonderful people that I mentioned before, I mean, we've got such an amazing team. And what we do is we license music. If a radio station or a TV station or a streaming station, they want to use our music, if you're a songwriter, composer, ASCAP goes out and makes that happen for these different companies. And then we take that money and distribute it back to the songwriters and composers that have written all that music. So it's just a fabulous organization. They're wonderful, wonderful programs for the up and coming songwriters. They have all the experts in all the different areas. My expertise is in TV and film, but they'll have rap artists, they'll have country artists, and we have all these different programs through ASCAP. And then going to Washington and letting people know that you got to look out for the songwriter. It's imperative that you look out for the songwriter, the composer, because otherwise you wouldn't have all this wonderful music. And as you've mentioned several times on this show, it really gets inside you, and I think it makes your life more wonderful. And so at ASCAP, we're trying to look out for all those wonderful people. And I just, the people, the management team, the great songwriters and composers I sit next to, the great publishers, who have done such a great job in their own right. It's a dream sitting on that board. It's fabulous.
It's incredible, really. Like I said, you're blessed. And remind us again of a couple of the things you're excited about for anybody that joined us late. And again, this episode will be archived, as 650 of them are, on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. That's where we house the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Jim Masters TV. We would love that. Spread the word about our series. Some cool things that are coming up that we can look forward to, Dan.
Well, we got to get this. These two plays that I did with Rob Dames. Now we're kind of coming out of COVID. Got to get a reading production of those back in the game in a lovely part of town. Then we got LJ. He's working. He's making sure I get all the stuff together to get this great album out of Seventh Heaven music. And then, the rest of the stuff, we'll just see what happens. The old songs with Tom Shapiro, who knows? They're sounding awful good, Jim, man. These they put a fresh face on those. And, Count Bernardino, he's always there. And we'll get that Trail of Tears. We'll get that performed, maybe in New York. I don't know. But I want you coming out here and visiting me when you come out to Los Angeles.
We're going to be like two kids in a toy room.
My record connection. And you tell Laura Webb hi from me. You tell her that we became friends tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to have, Cheryl's going to have to make us Nestle's Quick and Jiffy Pop. And
she's fabulous. Yeah, she's fabulous.
Somebody that usually stops by towards the latter part of the show just wanted to pop in and said that you knocked it out of the park. Mr. George Burns is in the house.
All right, George.
with his cigar and his red hanky. And he is here. I say that all the time. My aunt in Connecticut collected dolls.
Yeah.
And when this came out, when he was 100, she made sure she got this collector's item. It got passed down to me, and he is here. And he said that you were on fire tonight, Dan. And even though he was around 100 years, he learned a lot tonight from you.
All right. Thanks, George.
That's it, right? You're the best. This really was a fascinating conversation on many different levels. We touched a lot about, on a lot of different areas of your career, of your life, of your passions. One last thing before we head out, Roseanne, how did that come about for you?
Well, my friend Gail Maffeo, she said there is a writer from New York, Matt Williams, and he is someone that I think would really get along with you and Howard Pearl. Yeah. And so it was Gail who took us into an office with Matt. And Matt sat down and told us what he wanted for Roseanne. And we went right out after that meeting and just wrote the worst piece of music that has ever been written in the history of television music. I don't know. It was kind of disco, but it wasn't even as good as disco. And so we go back in with this place, probably on a cassette tape,
Yeah.
And he goes, he's sitting there like thinking, Gail, who did you introduce me to? But he was such a sweetheart that he gave us one more shot. And we took it more seriously. And it's a story I've got to always tell. All right. The first one was way too slick. First of all, it was all synthesizers and stuff.
Yeah.
Who in their right mind would score Roseanne with a synthesizer? At any rate, I did. But we went into Sound City. There's been a great documentary about Sound City.
Mm-hmm.
Nirvana was there. Fleetwood Mac was there. Bob Dylan was there. Man, this place was rocked out. You wouldn't see a synthesizer in this place.
No.
This was rock.
The real deal. Yes.
This was the real deal. And I'm not sure I shaved for like a couple of weeks, man, which for me was unusual. I've always been a little bit on the clean cut side of the business,
Yeah.
And I took this guitar. No, I don't even have this guitar anymore because it was so beat up. I think it fell apart. And I went in and I set the mood for this the second time around. And Howard and I wrote this bluesy piece of music that, God bless his soul, Duke Logan had given me a whole tape of all these great blues artists that had come before. Some of I'd heard of, and some I hadn't, like Muddy Waters and Robert Johnson, all these people. And so I got in the spirit of it. Not only the studio, the way I look, the guitar,
the whole thing.
And man, the second time we did okay. And
that's
the theme that you heard,
And of course, I believe even with the Connors, there's still elements of your work in that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's essentially like a variation. It's very inspired by that, and I am fortunate that we're considered writers on that song. You got Roseanne, you got the Connors. Come on, you got to keep that spirit alive.
Yes,
and that spirit of night. I think that goes back to 1988. That first show. I can't even believe it.
Absolutely. Always Be Happy is here. It says, hi, nice to meet you, Dan. Really cool. Jane is watching in Sweden live. Really an interesting show tonight. Thanks, Dan, for being here with us. And thanks, Jim, as well. I love all of these comments coming in here. Just show you a couple. Merlin in Ontario. She says, Canada. Thanks, Dan. It's been a blast. Sherry Larson in Kansas, USA. Thank you, Dan, for sharing your career with us tonight. Wow, what a career. Good luck in all you do in the future. And Kathleen Walker in New York City. Thank you for being here with us, Dan, as well. Cool stuff. Thanks, everybody, for all these great comments. Everybody really enjoying themselves here. Again, this was a blast, and we said we'd chat for maybe an hour. we did 2, and it didn't feel like it, did it? I mean, it's how all the guests usually say it doesn't feel like Toby says most excellent guest. I second that emotion, Toby, and Encino,
Toby.
She's in California and in Encino.
All right.
We did 2. Didn't feel like it. Next time you come on, we could do a quick one, but just really awesome to have you here. Say hi to Lawrence and would love, Paul Williams, anybody that wants to pop on, spread the word. It's really a blessing. Christine Clifton, Dan, we've enjoyed your interesting stories, so many terrific opportunities, and you've worked with great legends. Wonderful conversation. Jen Barry in Pennsylvania. Thanks, Dan, as well. Good stuff, huh?
All right.
I hope the show met whatever expectations you had, and you enjoyed the time with me as much as I definitely have with you, Jen. It was an honor and a pleasure.
Okay. Hope we meet each other in person one of these days. That
would be fantastic as well. All right. Thanks for being with us, and keep up the amazing work, my friend. Okay.
I'll see you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
True legend here on the Jim Masters Show Live. We really thank him for all the time. And that's what happens. We don't put a clock on these shows. They're not scripted. There are no questions that are pre-prepared. I do a lot of that in my professional work in TV and radio and all. These shows, we just let it roll. And if we're having a good time and everybody's engaged and the viewers are watching or having a phenomenal conversation like we just did with Dan, we just let it roll. And he and I were chatting. We said, probably do, about an hour or so, right? We just did 2, which actually there have been many guests when Lawrence Juber and everybody that's come on where we just say, hey, let's have a chat. And then all of a sudden we look at the clock and we're like, oh my God. But it never feels like that, right? We just let it roll. He really was fantastic. Take a look at a couple more comments coming in from our viewers watching all around the world. Thank you very much for the comments. We love that live. If this is your first time watching, definitely share the knowledge that this show exists with all of your friends, family, colleagues, and you can join us here on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, with the Jim Masters Show Live. Kathleen in New York City says, great show, Jim. Thanks. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Merlin says, supper time. Yes, it's time for supper for Dan. It's 9 o'clock here Eastern. So he's around 6, so he can have his supper now. Jen Barry says, thank you. You're very, very welcome. Cool stuff. Always be happy. I tell you, isn't that such a cool name? Always be happy. We love when you pop in. This really doesn't feel like 2 hours, Jim. I know it just doesn't. And it's really, really cool. Sherry Larson in here says, thank you, Jim, for another wonderful evening. Very talented, wonderful man. Thank you very, very much. We appreciate those kind words. And always be happy. Says hi to all the lovedies. Tova is here watching from Florida, USA. Says very enjoyable listening from Florida. That is perfect. We love that. Thanks for all of these great comments. Most excellent guest. Always be happy. Good stuff. You guys are the best, truly. If this is your first time, we thank you very much for joining us here. I'm your host, Jim Masters. I love doing this show with all of you. It's really a true blessing to entertain, inform, have good times in the way that we do. Merlin says, thanks, Jim. See you tomorrow. That's right. We're back with Gary Stockdale. He's a 2-time Emmy-nominated singer, songwriter, composer as well. It just seems like a theme right now. And he's worked on a lot of great shows and productions and films and specials. And he's an amazing guy. He's also going to perform live as well. He's all excited. He's getting things. His guitar is getting all tuned up as well. And we're looking forward to that. And boy, we also have coming up on our show, Christine Ullman. You know Christine? She's the Beehive Queen. She has been around for a long time, and she is a dear friend. I emceed this concert special, which was called Celtic Rock. They were bringing in a lot of the Irish artists, and she was on stage, and that's where we were paired together, and it was absolutely epic. She is vocalist and has been for years and years with the Saturday Night Live band, yes, SNL. And she's going to be joining us here on the show exclusively, which is really, really exciting. Sean Kanan, my buddy Sean's coming back. You know him, of course, General Hospital. He's on The Young and the Restless, Cobra Kai, and so much more. We just had Kathy Garver on the other night, my dear friend from Family Affair. We had a wonderful special. It was her third time on our show. A lot of the guests ask when they can come back. We really appreciate that. Let's see. Gamer says, great show tonight. Hey, Gamer, thank you very much. We appreciate your watching as well. Jane in Sweden says, great show. Thank you very much, Jane. So again, you can peruse and binge watch some of our amazing episodes that we've been doing for about 1.5 years now, plus daily live, about 640, 650 episodes. And we thank Dan for joining us here on the show. He really spent a nice deal of time. It wasn't rushed. It was conversational. And we really got a chance to really understand the behind the scenes, how it all works, how it all comes together, his passion, his life. And again, we just really scratched the surface of his legendary and iconic career, gang. So now when you watch a lot of these shows and movies as well, and so much more and specials, it's going to give you a different perspective now when you hear the music, right? You're going to have a different perspective. And maybe if you didn't pay attention to the music as much as maybe somebody like I do or Dan does, you will now, and the importance of it. The underscoring is so much more. We also learned about the Angie and that he did the underscoring. And of course, the beloved Charles Fox did the actual theme. So that was terrific. Although everybody thinks that Dan did the theme. So cool there as well. And just really, really fantastic. And another comment. Hey, Joshua, welcome to the Jim Master Show Live. Cool to have you here, Joshua. Really nice show today. Thanks. I appreciate that. I think it's your first time with us. Hopefully not the last. Or as Ed Sullivan would say, really nice shoe today. Thanks, Joshua. Appreciate those words. Gang, again, we always say we would love it if you subscribe. It's that red button you see there on our YouTube channel. Doesn't cost anything. Click that button, subscribe, and that lets us know you're enjoying what we're doing here on this series. And don't forget to click that notification bell so you never miss any of our episodes. You get an alert every time we have episodes, which is just like every single day. An amazing week coming up of guests. And if you enjoyed this episode, give it a like, a thumbs up like on our YouTube channel. And there's a little thumbs up icon there. Give it a like and leave a comment on the YouTube channel as well, okay? We would really appreciate that. Helps us big time. A couple more comments coming in and we'll wrap. Kathleen Walker says, good night, all, hugs. And keep Linda Odell's sister in your prayers. We will definitely do that, sending prayers and levity to Linda Odell, one of our faithful levity viewers from Florida, St. Augustine. We will pray for her sister, Kathleen, absolutely. Christine Clifton, Jim, this really was a fantastic episode with Dan. Thank you for the music, Dan. Fantastic stories. Thanks, Jim. Good night, Jim and Lovities around the globe. Thank you as well. Sherry Larson says good night as well and sweet dreams. Thank you very much, Sherry, and to all of you. You guys are the very, very best. One more, we'll check in here. And good stuff. I love all this. You guys are the best. Thanks for being with us. This is your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time. We're back tomorrow night live, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, right here with all of you. Busy day tomorrow. I'm on the radio with about 4 radio shows, and we have a TV shoot in the morning. And then I will be right here, fresh and ready to go for all of you here on the Jim Masters Show Live. Good night, everyone. And Jim and Christine. And this is kind of like an episode of the Waltons where everybody says good night to everybody. But the thing is, we archive our shows. So sometimes if you're not watching live, you may say, what are we talking about? Nighttime and good night. I'm watching this, Jim, on a Sunday at 2 in the afternoon on a YouTube channel. It's not night. That's just for the live audience. We love you no matter what time you're watching our series. We're going to duck out, okay? It's a pleasure. We thank Dan and we thank all of you for all the time and attention. We'll see you again on the next episode of the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series. Be well, take care, love one another. And again, as we always say, take care and cheers. See you again.